You're listening to the Broken Meeple Show, a podcast that speaks passionately about board games for the benefit of those who play them. My name's Luke Hector, best known for the Broken Meeple YouTube channel, and I'm an everyday gamer just like you. And I'll be talking about reviews, top 10s, and just about anything that connects me to board games, as long as I have a tea or coffee in hand, that is. So grab a cup, relax, and enjoy. And remember, it's only a game. Hi everyone, Luke Hector here, another podcast episode 108, I believe. Probably a shorter episode this time, and I know I say that every single time and end up still going to an hour and 10 minutes, but this time I feel fairly certain we can keep this one at a shorter length. Mainly because I don't really have much in the way of games I've played to talk about at the start, so we can sort of get on with the main discussion topic. But yeah, just to give a few updates, generally things are fine. I mean, work is plodding along, but we'll find out in the next... I think the next 2 to 3 weeks are going to be pretty decisive for work as to, like, you know, how well that carries on going. So we'll see how things continue, but so far I'm not particularly too stressed about it too much, although I am having some problems with my neck and back at the moment. I'm actually seeing a chiropractor now for like a few weekly sessions now going forwards because I seem to constantly have a really stiff, like, sort of neck and shoulder blade and upper back on the right-hand side of me, like, constantly. Like, I wake up this morning and I cannot turn my head far this way without it hurting, but I can do whatever I like this way and it doesn't bother me too much. And despite doing stuff at the gym and trying to move as much as I can, I have a desk-bound job and hobby and various other things, so moving is tricky for me when I'm not at the gym or going for a jog. It is taking its toll, and I've got to the point now where it's like, okay, this is too much. I mean, I can accept 1 or 2 days where I'm a bit stiff, but every day is getting a little bit ridiculous. And so they've made a diagnosis, and basically I'm just going to have some chiropractic treatment to try and loosen up that side of me a bit, because it is causing referred pain down my arm, you know, because when something traps up here, it then causes pain down here, and my tricep hurts for that very reason, which affects my ability to do weightlifting. So it's... you know, not a massive problem, but it's just one that I need to do, and so hopefully the lovely chiropractor can do that for me. But otherwise, generally fine. So, looking at the channel, well, the channel has definitely had some big stuff go up in the last couple of weeks. We're up to 25,300 subs, although 2 of them left since this morning. I've noticed that was 25,302 about an hour ago, but... the main reason is that there's quite a few big stuff that's happened. The top 50 is well underway. I started that since the last podcast. So we've got 50 to 41, 40 to 31, 30 to 21, about 6,000 views a pop. Not bad at all, actually, for each of those. I think doing this as a top 50 version was probably a good shout for me, actually. I definitely... I'm not as stressed doing it this time round. It's a shorter list to compile, it's less videos to record, more people care about the top stuff than the bottom stuff. Anyway, I know there's some exceptions, but majority are more interested in the top lot. So I think we're going to keep it to 50 going forward, and I think it's, you know, just an easier thing to do. Because even I'm not watching a lot of top 100s. You know, I used to watch the Dice Tower top 100s all the time. I haven't even watched this year's one. I'm not even sure if I watched last year's. I just kind of got... I don't know, I just haven't felt like watching them myself, although I think it's also because of who's doing the top 100. Like, I want to know these people's top 100, not these people's top 100. So, when you've got a mixture of people, you're kind of like, well, I want to know theirs, I don't want to know theirs, and, you know, at some point I will get round to watching them, but I just really haven't had the time. But they're doing well, so thank you for everybody who's commenting on those. 20 to 11... has been recorded, I just haven't edited it yet, mainly because I had to get the Finspan review out. Yes, Finspan arrived about a week and a bit ago, thanks to a viewer who was a Stonemaier champion. Thank you very much for doing that for me. I obviously paid for it, but, you know, we used his ability as a Stonemaier champion to get it delivered quicker. And the idea with this is that I needed to get a full review done for it. I thought it was only going to be a speed review at first, because it's only a light game, but nope, I had a lot to talk about there, so this review is definitely having to be a full review, because it was getting buzzed and hyped like crazy, because everything from Stonemaier always does. I wanted to find out if it was good, and I've got my full thoughts on it there, good amount of thoughts on this, you know, because there's a lot to dissect. And, you know, we're already up to 3,500 views. I only released it yesterday. yesterday 4 o'clock or something. So it's not even 24 hours old, and it's doing pretty well. And I like the fact that it's 98.1% like ratio as well, because normally a lot of these more controversial reviews where, well, I say controversial, the ones where you go on about a game that is really buzzed and hyped and you give any kind of critique towards it, normally you get loads of people come out of the woodwork and like hate on you for it. And to be fair, Board Game Geek is kind of guilty for that. It's kind of weird. I've got 200 likes here and 4 dislikes. That's a really good ratio. And 98.1% likes. And all the comments have generally been sort of in agreement, with a few disagreeing, but being very civil and debating about it. And that's fantastic. It's what I want to see. And this is over 60, this is 63 comments at this point, of which probably 3/4 of that are other people and 1/4 of that are my replies. But that's like, pretty much like 100% success rate for decent comments now, right? I've had 2 comments on Board Game Geek, and one of them was a rules correction, and one of them was basically an attack. And it's like, well, 2 comments and it's not even a 50% success rate. It's like, okay. Board Game Geek community, I think, is very different from YouTube community, but I'm still liking the way this is going. So giving my honest thoughts on that one, and certainly a lot of people have been grateful for me giving my honest thoughts, because there is a lot of sponsored stuff out there, and you need to be able to tell the difference between one and the other. But yeah, only 4 videos since the last podcast, but they're big ones. So, and that's going to continue. I mean, I've got to do the 20 to 11 editing, then I'll record the 10 to 1. I haven't got any more reviews planned in terms of stuff I've already played, apart from maybe a speed review of Video Game Champion to see if I get time. But I do have some games on the horizon that I'm definitely excited for. I mean, I have got a dispatch notification and a email from the publisher that Galactic Cruise is on its way to me as we speak. It is in transit. It's already been dispatched, and I should be getting it any day now. I mean, already a few people have been getting their pledges, and I look forward to playing this one because I enjoyed my demo of it, but I haven't really played it since, and I'm hoping that this will be as good as a nice smooth Lacerda game like the ones behind me. I foresee this being one of the best games of the year. Not something from my perspective. I mean, best games of the year as voted on by people. I can see this one just getting a ton of praise from like the heavy Euro gamers out there, and it getting a lot of buzz. So, fair play if it's that good, but we're going to find out. I should be getting it this week. First games should be end of the week, and then I'll play it to death over the weekend, and hopefully I can get a review out for this one at some point. But bearing in mind, it is a big, heavy game. Okay, these ones take a little bit longer, so you'll just have to bear with me on that. Remember, I get review copies these days, but typically at the same time everybody else gets them in terms of retail consumers, so I don't get them 4 weeks in advance like some people do, so I have to kind of make do. But yeah, looking forward to that one for sure. And what else? I would have liked to have got a review copy, or at least had some UK notification of sale of Star Trek Captain's Chair, because I have yet to see anybody say anything bad about this game. However, that makes me worry a little bit, because look, I like Imperium that it's based on, okay? It's a good game, but it has its issues. The fact that nobody has said any bad words about this game whatsoever does make me worry that it's a little bit too much on the hype train there. But I want to play it because it's Star Trek themed and it's a successor to Imperium. Will it make that mechanic easier to get to the table? Because that's Imperium's biggest problem, getting it to the table with its complex and fiddly rules is quite a bit of a mammoth thing to do. If this one can streamline it a little bit, or this one can just make it a bit easier to get to the table and still retain that Imperium feel, then I might be selling Imperium and keeping this, honestly. But until we get a copy in the UK, I don't know. I haven't got a contact at... well, I remember getting a contact at WizKids at one point, and I remember like saying, yeah, let's get in touch, blah, blah, blah. And then I've had radio silence since, especially when I've asked about this game. So, I wonder. Yeah, that makes me a little concerned as well. But, when it does hit the UK properly, and I mean when retails get it, because that's the only way I'm going to get this game at all, then no doubt I will do a review on this one. That is guaranteed. All right, and what else? Oh, yes, I've got something arriving from Awakened Realms. I have no idea what. I literally just got dispatch notifications that it's been sent out, but I haven't had an email from them to say, this is what it is. And I don't really want to email them back, because I'm almost kind of like, half excited as to what it might be. It's like, ooh, okay, this could be a nice little fun thing I want to see, but what the hell could it be? That's the thing. That's what I need to know, because it is definitely Awakened Realms. I'm pretty sure of it, but what would it be? So, I mean, if I go year released range 2025, 2025, search on Board Game Geek, what sort of stuff are they doing? So we got Nemesis Retaliation, we got Dragon Eclipse, the Puerto Rico Special Edition, Lands of Evershade. Now, it could be Lands of Evershade related because I already did that, but then I don't see why they would send me more Lands of Evershade stuff when the game isn't finished yet and I've already done a preview of it. So this says to me that it's something else. I definitely am not expecting any more Tainted Grail stuff, so it can't be that. So I'm wondering if this has something to do with Dragon Eclipse, which I haven't really looked at much, or whether it is something to do with Nemesis Retaliation. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could be overselling this like crazy. It might literally just be a gift box for the chocolates for all I know. But I don't want to email them. I kind of just want to wait and see when it comes through and just get a parcel through the day and go, ooh, it's like Christmas. I got a new gift. Of course, that could lead to disappointment. But, you know, on this occasion, I'm willing to, like, you know, it's Awakened Realms. I'm willing to accept that whatever is in that box is going to be something interesting. But hopefully I'll be able to report on that soon, even if it's just by an Instagram post. So yeah, stuff on the horizon for sure. And I do want to do things like top 10 Euro games for 4 players. That list is still on my to-do list, so I do want to do that at some point, probably after the top 50 is done. So we get the top 50 out of the way, and then we can do some top 10 lists from the old days, because we're in Q1. None of that gets released game-wise at this point, so other than Galactic Cruise, there isn't a huge amount to talk about. So yeah, you know, there will be time for some top 10 lists for sure. Right, well, I haven't really played any games in the recent weeks that are brand new to me. I mean, there was one I played from Big Potato Games, but I can't remember what it was, and honestly, it's kind of forgetful, and I'm not really that fussed. So I was trying to think, well, what on earth can I talk about in this segment? Because most of the games I've played have been stuff I'm reviewing or stuff I've already played before. So it doesn't really make sense to say, oh, this is new stuff. So I figured I might just very quickly talk about something that I was hoping to get a review copy of. Sadly did not. Had to buy it myself at its overinflated price. And yes, it is overinflated. But I've been playing a bit of the Ark Nova Steam app. So Dire Wolf, who do I think the Dune apps, which I've never really played because I don't care much for Dune, but they've now done an early access of Ark Nova. So Ark Nova is one of my favorite games. Everybody knows this. So the fact that this comes out on Steam is obviously going to sing to me. It's going to be something that I am desperate to do. Now, I know that it's on Board Game Arena, and it's a pretty decent implementation on Board Game Arena. And certainly I have no qualms about playing it on Board Game Arena with friends. With randoms, I'm getting less and less infused with BGA at the moment, because BGA random players, 95% of the time, are people who just care about winning and ELO rankings and stuff like that, and I just could not give a monkey's toss. I really couldn't. You know, it's like people sort of big as like, oh, I was number 10 in the country at one point on this board game, as if I give a crap. You know, I don't care. I'm not interested in tournaments. I'm not interested in rankings. I'm playing games to enjoy them. And yes, I play to win, but I play to win in the spirit of the game. I don't care if I'm the #1 champion of Ark Nova. I clearly am not, you know, because and the fact is, you're saying that, oh yeah, you're the best at this particular game. Most games have a degree of randomness or luck to them at some point. So you're trying to say that you are the best at the game that has some random elements to it. You are basically saying that, yes, I can make good decisions, but luck was also on my side. Why am I praising you for luck being on your side? You know, if you're a pole vaulting champion and you go to the Olympics and you win the gold medal, I'm going to hazard a guess that there's more to it than luck when it came to you winning the gold medal. I'll give you praise for that. But being the best at a board game, who cares? Honestly, I really just don't. But rant over. So I've been playing this on there. So this is literally Ark Nova as you know it from the board game. And so far, like I say, I was hoping to get a review copy so I could do a full-on review, but sadly that's not happened. Now, I don't know if this video will play on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, but we'll see. But yeah, it's got the same graphic design. It's still got It's still got the same like look and feel. It's early access, so it's still subject to change, and it doesn't have marine worlds in it yet, and I bet that won't happen until God knows when after release. So that is a bit of a shame. I would have liked marine worlds to be in this, but you can play against people online. You can play against the AI at multiple levels of difficulty: easy, medium, hard, unfair, legendary. There's quite a few in there. And you can use everything from the base game. Perhaps I'm sure they'll try and sell you some over expensive map pack add-on DLC or something at some point, and God knows how much Marine Worlds will be. But this is now the cheapest app in the world. I mean, even on early access, they're still pricing it at £18, which is really expensive. And this is what puts a lot of people off buying these Steam apps. They're just frankly very costly. I mean, I recently bought Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, and Monster Hunter's Wild, okay, and they were expensive games, so they were like, 40, 50 quid. Now, that is because I know Baldur's Gate 3 is going to give me probably years worth of entertainment, and I'm going to be playing it multiplayer with some friends, so we're going to be using it. And I spent most of yesterday playing a bunch of it, but and Monster Hunter Wild, a few of us who I game with have got a tradition that we like the Monster Hunter games. Like, these are people who don't tend to play many action-orientated games, but for some reason we latched onto Monster Hunter Wild, Monster Hunter in general. So with this new one, we're going to play it, 4 of us, multiplayer. So we're going to get our money's worth out of those titles. But most of the time, I don't like to spend more than a tenner on most PC games. I mean, Deep Rock Galactic cost me a tenner, I think, when I bought it. And yeah, I may have bought some DLCs over time, but that's because I played over 500 and 600 hours into that game. Of course I'm going to give them a few pennies to support the game. But I don't think I paid more than a tenner for Don't Starve. I think Don't Starve Together was probably only a few quid. Stardew Valley was not even a tenner. And I've kind of got to the point where I'm a bit bored with Stardew Valley now. I've played through a full playthrough and I don't feel like playing through it again. But it still gives me plenty of hours worth of entertainment. And I can still play it multiplayer with some people if I want to. So there's a lot of stuff I play that doesn't require me to spend loads of money. And £18 for an app is just a little bit insane. But I digress. I'm supposed to be talking to you about the actual game itself. So, let's see if I can get on the screen. Here we go. So there's some bigger screenshots here. So with this, you basically have an interface where the AI information is on the left, and it tells you all you need to know about what they've got. You can't easily see their map layout without clicking on the actual bar and it taking you to a camera view of their map. Although, to be perfectly honest, do you honestly pay that much attention to your opponent's maps in the game? You're interested in when they're going to nick cards off you or go on conservation projects, but do you really care what their map looks like? Not that much. But everything is there that I need to know. I know what cards they flipped, I know their points, I know their income, I know their reputation, their appeal, their green points, how many workers they've got, how many X's they've got, how much money they've got, all the tags they've got, continents and things like that. So all the information is nicely constrained on the left there for as many AIs as you want. And you've got your own down as the player. On the right-hand side, you've got the association board, you've got the association projects, who's taken them and which ones you can physically do. You've got tabs for all the animals you've played, all the sponsors you've played, your objectives, and you can see the points tracks at the top, which you can bring down the menu at the top of the screen so that you don't have to look at a massive thing. You can also have a card display at the top. It's not in this particular photo, but you can have the cards showing that are in the display. So there's a lot of stuff that's on screen that's nice and clear. I think as an interface, it's off to a good start. I can't think of many things that I would like the interface to add on information wise, but I'd be curious if anybody else has noticed any problems that they would be interested of. So yes, you can play Ark Nova against some AI, and the animations, I wish there was a setting to speed up the animations, but they're not that slow. But, come on, we want slow, medium, and fast animations in these types of games, Direwolf. This is kind of a main staple of Steam games. We want to tailor our own speed. But, okay, so if I go to another one, so all the cards in there, it's the original artwork, all the original design, so everything looks good. You can easily see what's in your hand. Holding down the control button will bring up a big load on the display, so you can see exactly what the card's about. So they haven't taken away from the artwork or anything like that, so that's always a good thing. What else do we see? So yeah, your starting hand. Selecting which action you're doing is easy. There's undo buttons if you made a mistake, which thank God you do need undo buttons and these kinds of things. There you go. You can see the reputation display at the top. That's fine. And then when abilities trigger, you get this little bar that appears, and it has things like the snapping ability, how many appeal you get, how many green points you get, and you can click on each bonus because you can do them in any order. So you can decide if it's automatic and there's nothing to choose, it will just do it for you. But if there is a choice, it gives you the chance to choose, and then you do it. So for example, you get a snake that affects the others with venom. Well, you want to use that ability before you get the appeal score for the snake in case you go over. So it's stuff like that. But, you know, it's all so far very easy to use. Now, okay, fine. But where's the unique selling point? Well, you've got these special sort of exhibit challenges that you can do every now and again, although that there is a partial ranking system for those, which puts me off them a bit. I don't want to do ranking. I don't want to say, oh, I did this with this many points and that. And some people have done some of these challenges and got ridiculous scores to the point where I think the app is busted, because I don't know how you could score that much in a game. But you know, you would have had to have got really lucky or something. Again, I don't care. So that bit I'm not as keen on, but you can pass and play on the system. You can play the solo mode, the official solo mode. You can play against AI as a proper multiplayer game. But this is where I'm getting my kicks at the moment. The challenges. The challenges is a bit like the solo scenarios you get in things like Cascadia and things like that. And essentially what happens is, I wonder if there's a screenshot. No, there's no screenshot where I can show you an example, but and this is showing off the build menu, funny enough, actually. So it shows you what you can build. You click and drag the piece. You can rotate it, orientate it, tells you where it can legally go. So you're not spending ages trying to figure out if it's a legal placement or not. Very straightforward interface. I got to admit, this is a very good start for them. But what was I saying? The challenges, yes. The challenges are easy and hard versions of about 15 odd challenges. There's quite a few, and I hope they'll add more. But what these do is that they remove for you the objectives, the brown objectives, right? The opponent gets them, but you don't. Instead, there's a special rule that affects the game. Like, for example, you might start with Migration Expert, and then you only lose half the points for appeal on migrating animals. And there might be another one that says if you put an animal in an enclosure next to another animal, you get affected with a negative result. And, you know, there's a few of them, and some of them are positive, some of them are negative effects. Now, I have gone through and done all of the easy mode challenges. So they're first stints, which typically means that you play on the beginner's map or map 0, and you have an effect that can be positive but also can be negative. The fact that you haven't got a brown objective, bear in mind, is essentially taking 3 or 4 conservation points away from you. So it's effectively saying, you know, because if you only get 1 or 2 conservation points for your brown objective, you haven't played very well. But you know, you haven't played to its objective. But you should be able to get 3 or 4. So you're talking 9 or 12 points from that you're not getting now because of this effect. So you got to make up for that. But the hard versions let you have the more interesting maps, but then throw in some pretty nasty effects. I mean, the migration one that I mentioned, the hard version of that is that you can't win the game unless you have freed at least 3 animals. So you got to find those objectives, and you got to make sure you do them. And so these challenges are good fun to do. I enjoy them. They're interesting. They make the game feel fresh. And I've been playing this time and time and time again lately, as an easy, this will kill 30, 40 minutes of my time. Let's just play through a nice game of Art Nova. Still enjoy it, still love it. And, this is helping me to get it played more, because rather than play against randoms who are more interested in winning than not, I might as well play against an AI, and the difficulty is not that easy. I mean, medium AIs can still beat you. They can still pull something out of the bag, although if you're good at the game, you should probably beat the medium AIs more often than not. They do a very good job of nicking all the cards that you really want, though. But there's hard, there's unfair, there's legendary. I mean, there's harder difficulties, so I'll be seeing what they're like when I do the expert challenges. So I'm going to see what the difficulty curve is at that point. But yeah, so far, good impressions so far. I want to see how this develops. I want to see how long it takes to get to full release. I mean, honestly, it looks pretty complete as it is. I'm curious what else they need to actually do to it. But there might be a few bugs in places. I mean, there are a few written bugs with a couple of abilities where the ability shows up weird or has garbled text, but it's rare, and you know what it is when you see it, so it's not like it's a big deal. But all the mainstay stuff of the game, works fine, really. So, probably won't be too long before this gets a full release, but we'll have to see. But so far, I'm impressed. So, consider that a positive first impressions of Ark Nova on Steam. It's expensive, but if you're an Ark Nova fan and you don't like BGA, then this is a good way to go. Mint tea, still quite hot. All right. Okay, let's get on with the topic, because that was quite lengthy. So, basically, how long have I been doing this now for? Oh, God, like 8 odd years or something I've probably been doing content creation, quite a bit. But then also, how long have I been a diehard gamer? Probably in the region of 10, 11, 12 years. And obviously I did gaming hobbies in the early days, like college and university. I mean, college was the Warhammer phase. University was definitely an RPG and Magic phase. And, and during that time, I would have still enjoyed board games as a kid. Also during college, at university, there were a few games like Citadels and stuff that, stuck with me. But then in terms of, I've gone to a board game club and I have started to get into this hobby where I'm putting up a shelf, collecting games. Even before I started content creation, we're talking at least over 10 years, if not more, probably closer to 12 maybe. I mean, we're in 2025. I swear I must have started at least around 2013. So maybe a year or so before that. So it's got to be at least 12. But the question is, and this has been suggested by a Patreon, so very... thank you to that. In fact, if I got it still on my phone screen so that I can thank them personally. Oh, boo. Well, I'll try and find it while I discuss. But basically, this is just an idea of how far, or what has changed and what has stayed the same in regards to my taste in games, how I view games, my attitude to games, what I value most in games, that kind of thing. There's a lot of changes that have happened, but there is stuff that I've stuck to my guns with, and so I am curious to sort of talk about what those things are. Now, where the hell is this person? I want to thank them. I don't know. I will get to it, and I will thank you, but it's just proving a little bit hard to actually find you at the moment. But the idea with this is that I've been playing for a long time, and as you do so, your tastes change. You do get into a situation where, like, oh yeah, now that I'm now that I've played games for a bit, these are the ones I like, or these are trends I don't like, these are mechanics I don't like, the way the industry's going, am I a fan of that? So there's definitely fluctuations that can happen. And I just want to sort of talk about specific bits like that. So, while I'm trying to find this person who has very kindly commented on my post, right, I gave up and just decided to pause the stream for a bit. Right, Charlie Kraus, thank you very much. I think that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, so what has changed, what has not, So firstly, I don't know, well, I'm not going to do them in any particular order. I'm just going to, as they come to mind, I'm going to think, right, okay, that's different. So the first thing that definitely springs to mind is the whole fact that I'm not as much of a completionist as I used to be. I mean, if I scroll the camera this way, you in YouTube land will be able to see my Arkham Horror LCG and Lord of the Rings LCG stuff there. So they take up, Arkham Horror takes up 2 calyx squares, Lord of the Rings takes up a calyx square, and those little suitcase things on the top of the cabinet, those are Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, and a couple of other games in there. And I think they have stuff to do with Lord of the Rings and Arkham Horror in there as well. So there's a lot of stuff in my collection to do with those games. And that's because I was buying the packs as they came out. But what I have grown to realize is that, and I think this is because of the stage of my life that I've grown up through. Because when I started doing this, I would have been, in my late 20s? Yeah, late 20s when I started really getting into games, and now I'm 40. God, do I feel old, even though people are now going to get on my back saying you are not old, get off your case, which is fair enough. But I've gone through a stage of my life where you had more time in the world, and now you don't. You're not as physically able as you used to be. You don't have as much time spare. And certainly, even when I was doing a typical job back in my 20s, I felt like there was more time. There was more time to do stuff. But the older you get, the less time you have. And these days, I feel like I'm busy with a lot of stuff, content creation, the job in general, trying to keep up social obligations, the way that just the general environment, has changed in board gaming, and living, just general style of living will change. Even like a case of, right, have you got your rented place? Have you got your own place? Have you got a place big enough to do stuff? So, friends, they come and gone over the years. It's a lot of stuff factors into this, but I used to grab every expansion I could for a game just because I could. And I've done that with Marvel Champions to an extent. But as I've said before, I still have 2 packs here for Marvel Champions that I haven't even opened yet. This is the thing. I bought these because they're cool characters. I've yet to find the time to actually open them, put them in, sort them out, even play them, so this is a problem. And a lot of this is down to time, and this is because I have a lot more games than I used to before. When I started off, I had a 4x4 Calyx shelf, or maybe 5x4, and that was it. And it took a while to fill that up. So for a while I was playing these games over and over, but then I was playing a lot more new games as well. So now, when you've got all these games, it's very difficult to play them all, and you physically can't. So I'm now less inclined to buy everything for a game if I don't think the game is going to get played enough. Certainly, I have stopped buying anything for Arkham Horror LCG and Lord of the Rings now. I mean, Lord of the Rings I think I've got everything for, so I can't really do much about that. But Arkham Horror LCG, didn't buy the last deluxe set, and I won't buy any more deluxe sets for it. I'm done. If it gets played, when it gets played, it's going to be great. But I don't need all this new content because I've got so much content in there already that probably still isn't played. Even if I go through a campaign I've already done, I can still take a different branching path, and even just using the different investigator is going to vastly change how I approach each scenario, and the scenarios are typically designed to be variable. So why do I need a brand new story every time, especially if power creep and complexity go through the roof as a result? So now I'm actually a bit more picky on expansions. Am I playing this game enough to warrant taking the expansion? If not, then what do I care? Is it necessary? Do I need the extra variety? Is it going to fix the game? Or should I just save some money? So, or consider just not playing the game anymore, and selling it off. So there's definitely a much more less of a completionist attitude I've got, certainly these days. Next biggest thing I can certainly think of that I've changed is I'm no longer a big lover of Kickstarter anymore. And I really mean it. I just don't have a lot of Kickstarter stuff on the go in general. And I used to do a lot more on Kickstarter. It's like, oh yeah, I'll buy these. Oh yeah, I'm going to get these presents, over the course of time, and it's going to be great. But now I pretty much have grown tired of Kickstarter in general. That being said, I haven't completely gone off it, but whereas before I probably had good 10 projects on the go waiting to be delivered, now I think I've only got 2 on the go, and it's literally those top 2 there. It is the Earth Abundance expansion and the South Tigris Trilogy expansions. That's it. 2 of my... Oh no, and Stellaris. Stellaris has yet to be delivered, but that one was done ages ago. So it's these. That's it. Those are the Kickstarters I've got. I didn't back... Oh, wait a minute. No, tell a lie. Tell a lie. I did at the last minute back Revenant. Revenant for Mindclash Games. I wasn't convinced I was going to get a review copy of that because I never get a review copy from Mindclash Games. I decided that because I enjoyed the demo so much, I would back Revenant and, we'll go... I'll do a review when that one comes out, honest opinions. Although... that has just reminded me of another point on this discussion topic I'll bring up after this. But yeah, I've just kind of given up on Kickstarter and GameFound. They end up just being pre-order campaigns, and they are too costly now. Ever since Brexit happened, they were expensive before, but with Brexit and postage costs going up over the world, it's now really expensive to ship stuff over, and we have to pay an extra 20% VAT on top. So suddenly you're thinking, well, why the hell am I paying all this money for it just to get it a month or 2 early? Can't I wait? It's like these people who buy the stupidly overpriced digital versions of video games, and they buy like the early access pack for Digital Deluxe. It's like, you will get this 3 days early if you pay us £120 for a game. If you are paying £120 for a video game, there is something wrong with you. I mean, there is no reason to spend that much on a video game. And anyway, when they do these early access things, have you noticed that most of the time the servers break down because everybody's trying it? So stop it. But I've no interest in that. So unless I trust that I'm going to get. And I know it looks expensive there, like $246 there. That's New Zealand dollars. That actually only works out at about, what's it, like about 70, 80 quid, something like that, tops. And this is for 3 expansions to game. So it's relatively all right value, except for the shipping. But I trust Garfield Games, so I trust them to do a good project. You know, they do good projects. Canadian dollars, $39 is only so much as well. Now, granted, I spent a lot more on Deep Rock Galactic expansions. Yes, I have spent quite a lot of money on that game, but then I love the game, so why not? In fact, I've actually paid somebody on commission to paint my Deep Rock Galactic set. I never usually care about painting my miniatures, but Deep Rock Galactic's a game that's for keeps. I love the game, therefore I figured, you know what, you're local, you do a good job. I saw somebody's Worms game painted, and I thought, you know what, if you can do this for me, it would be good. In fact, actually, I wonder if I can, on my phone, I know this sucks for you listening to this on normal thing, but come on, where is he? I'm sure I spoke to him recently. Here we go. Yeah, so hopefully I can get some pictures up of what's happened so far. So, okay, let me zoom back in, zoom back in, zooming out. I'm not going to reveal names, but hopefully this will... oh, God, yeah, I'm going to be careful about revealing too much of that. Right, there we go. So that is what we've got so far on he's gone on holiday, but he's gone on holiday, but he's done my like Deep Rock models for the dwarfs. So we got the driller there, that was yellow. We got the gunner there with his big gun in green. The scout with a mixture of blue and yellow. Now this is this is per the picture that is on the player board. So yes, the scout being yellow as well is a little bit weird, but sorry, the light flickered there a little bit. But yeah, they look really cool. Oh God, come on, focus on the engineer. It's a little bit bright, so you can't easily see. But yeah, I mean, these modules are looking pretty sweet so far. So when these fully painted that, which I expect will be done by the end of March, then yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, back to the point. So yeah, I find myself really picky on projects. I will now only... I used to spend so much money on them, and probably wasted a decent amount of money, because there was a lot of times when I got these Kickstarters, and some of them I've kept, and some of them are fantastic. You know, I've got all the Frostpunks still, and a few and stuff like that, but there are times where I'm just like, why am I spending this much money on a gamble? It's not worth it. I mean, there are some stuff that's going to come out in retail anyway, I just don't bother with. Now, I do it with the Garfield Games stuff, because their price on retail is not that much different to what their Kickstarter is, so I'm fine with that. But Sentinels of the Multiverse, one of my favourite games of all time, I don't back that on GameFound now, because they take forever to make, so I'm paying miles in advance for something that's not going to come out in ages, and when it comes out, it's not that long afterwards when it comes out on retail. So I kind of just, I'm willing to wait. And a lot of these games have that problem. Nowadays, and this will link into my third point on this discussion I want to make, which, you know what, why don't we go to that? Miniatures. I'm just not caring so much about miniatures anymore, and, you know, or deluxe versions of games. And this links into like that Revenant one I mentioned. The Revenant had, in fact, if I can bring up the screen, I will try to do so, but Revenant on GameFound had several editions that you could do, and you had retail. You could wait for retail, or if you got it on Kickstarter, you were essentially getting a captain's version and an admiral version, or whatever it was, you know, their names. And, you know, I backed it in the end because I enjoyed the demo of it. But if you wait for the retail version, you essentially get like bare bone components, cardboard, and not even dual layer boards, which I find a little bit cheesy. I think if you're going to make this for retail, don't do the classic FOMO thing of, well, if you don't get it on Kickstarter, we're not going to give you any decent components that should be mainstays in games now. That just felt a little bit cheesy on this one, but, you know, I digress. But the idea is that you can buy 2 versions of this. So it's not a cheap one. I mean, if I can find the pledges, where are the pledges? So Admiral Edition is €129. You know, so as near as makes no difference, £129. The Captain Edition is £89. And when you buy it on retail, supposedly it's going to be somewhere in the region of probably about 60 quid. Maybe Andromeda's Edge style pricing, okay? So these are the 2 that you buy. So what exactly is the difference here? Well, retail, you get dual layer ships, core components, and some content. And that's literally it. Captain Edition gives you all of the other stuff. Crew miniatures, an expansion, spot UV embossing, as if anybody cares. Seriously, why is that a stretch goal? Modular insert. I mean, for crying out loud, inserts should be a mainstay in games. Don't, make it a Kickstarter or anything. All in one box and some upgrades and stuff like that. And then the Admiral goes even further by putting all the ships into miniatures, including the damage markers, right? So in the old days, I would have probably been like, you know what, I'm just going to get the Admiral Edition, get everything. I want all the funky miniatures, I want all the extra resources, blah, 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 and just done it. I only backed the Captain version this time. Why? Because I'm starting to get a little bit bored with miniatures. Why? Well, think about it. When you look at this, comparison editions here, so, whatever, I don't care about adverts. Right, so what's in the box? So you've already got a lot of components in here, but the Captain Edition has, here you go, dual layer ships. So, you can put the cubes, damage cubes in there, and you can put your markers and stuff. You get crew miniatures, but the crew miniatures are tiny little things. They're not giant miniatures, and they're color-coded to players, right? You get dual layer boards, which should be a mainstay. You get cardboard ship tiles for the enemy. You get cardboard resource tokens. You get dual layer influence tracker board. You get standard. You get cardboard tokens for a lot of stuff, but you get dual layer boards, and you get some miniatures. This is all you need to play the game, really. As long as I've got the insert and everything fits and it's nice on the table, I'll go with that. But here's the other thing: the ships on the boards and these Voidborn ships and everything like that are artwork. They're art. You can see what they are. The problem is, when you then go to the Admiral Edition, you get this ridiculously oversized Revenant miniature, which I'm sure is probably most of the cost, and then you get these other ship miniatures. And I'm not to say that these ship miniatures are not great. I mean, they're okay, but I've seen better. But the idea being is that now you've got these those little spiky orange ships for the Voidborn, and you've got damage markers which are basically things that could poke your eye out or cut your foot in half if you were to stand on them. I mean, look at them; they are literally caltrops. And the fact is now you have this, so you can put these markers into there, and you'll have a 3D ship on top of your shipboard. But the miniatures are unpainted, so you've got to pay somebody to paint them if you're going to do that again. And it'll probably take a while because these are more detailed than some. But do I need to? I mean, I've paid extra for these miniatures. They're going to obscure some of these boards because now they stick out more above the token. You're going to be looking at a distance and you won't be able to read the iconography on the tile. Whereas on a normal tile, you could. Now, I tend to spend a little bit extra doing things like playmats, but playmats are nice. I like playmats. I don't know if I bought the metal resource set. I don't think I did. I think that's a waste of money as well, but I like playmats. I like that smooth surface where you can drag cards along it nice and easily, and it gets rid of grubby tables, that kind of problem. So, yeah, I do like playmats. But I don't need little orange spiky ships. I don't need loads of grey ships everywhere. Because when I go back to the Captain Edition, I've got artwork. I can see what the ships are. I can see what the Voidborn ships are. And it's the same with a lot of other campaigns as well. I mean, the miniatures for something in the old days, like Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, the miniatures in that game are garbage. They are garbage miniatures. So I'd much rather have standees. And they gave you the token. So I actually play Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition using only the tokens, not the miniatures. Because the miniatures are garbage. But Eldritch Horror and the Arkham games, they don't use miniatures for a lot of like the investigators and some of the monsters. They use standees. Standees are just fine. Now, I love my Deep Rock Galactic game, and yes, I'm getting it painted. That is an exception to the rule. Those miniatures were done very well. But the standee models are still great. I mean, you've got artwork for all the bugs. You can see picture and color and everything. I'm having to go out of my way, money-wise, to get the Deep Rock set to look like a proper game because they don't come painted. And I'm just now at that point where it's like, why am I spending all this money on miniatures and the full-on versions of Kickstarter games? So not only am I doing less Kickstarter stuff in general, I'm also less inclined to buy the souped-up versions. I mean, what was one? I paid extra to get the deluxe version of the Fox Experiment, right, a while back. Played it, reviewed it, thought it was meh. It's good, but not great. It's too clunky, it's too fiddly, too long, whatever. And so that was a waste of money. Yeah. waste of money buying the deluxe version of that because it didn't help. The fact that the pieces were great made no difference because the rest of the game wasn't good enough. So why am I bothering? It's that kind of feeling. And so less Kickstarters, less Game Found, less deluxe things. I'm trying to save my money, and that money helps to make the channel a bit better as well. But also because there's so much content by creators that's just Kickstarter stuff, and all it is adverts. It's designed to generate FOMO hype and sucker you into buying a game. Now, I've done occasional previews for Kickstarters as well, but they are very rare. They are on request or like specially requested by a publisher, and even then I'm very picky about which ones I do. I mean, Awakened Realms, I trust that stuff, it's going to be fun, and even then I'm allowed to give my honest opinions. So Awakened Realms trusts me to give honest opinions on a preview, and I trust that they're not going to hound me for it. So we have a relationship there. But for example, I never get asked to preview Eagle Griffin games because I'm pretty certain they wouldn't want me to say any critiques about a massive Euro game. But Galactic Cruise people, Kenson Games and Drander, they asked me to do a preview of Galactic Cruise. I said no because I don't want to look at it early. I'll demo it early and give first impressions in my own time, but I'm not here to make an advert for your game. I'm here to critically review it when it comes out. Hence, I'm getting the review copy in a couple of days. So I don't like watching them, so why would I want to necessarily produce it myself? And this is what people watch my channel for, as well as to see me explode on rants. But Kickstarter is definitely a thing there. So a few things have changed there, but what hasn't changed? Certainly my game tastes. To an extent, some have changed. I've definitely appreciated more Euros than I did when I first got into it, because, I would have played some games that weren't necessarily thematic, beatdowns or anything, but in terms of, things like the Lacerters, the big Euro games, some of the draw stuff, the very complex mechanical stuff, that wasn't there when I first started. I mean, something like Hegemony, I can't imagine I would have played Hegemony like 2 years into gaming. I'm playing Hegemony because I'm now as I am now, but yeah, back then I probably wouldn't have touched it. So there is an element of maybe the complexity of games has gone up over time, but then that's kind of natural. You don't start off in gaming and then play the most complex game in existence. You work your way up to it. So I did, and now I enjoy complex games, so I'm perfectly fine with that. But I think my taste in games hasn't changed dramatically. I still am a big component of theme. I like theme in my games, so I don't play a lot of the dry beige stuff. Remember when I talked about the Vulgari Eloquentia, or whatever it was last week? That really beige Latin game? Not a big fan. It's kind of boring, whatever. But that's the sort of game I wouldn't necessarily play. But you see my Pursuit of Happiness, but stupid Cameron version. The Pursuit of Happiness thing there. That's a really thematic game. Obviously, stuff like Marvel Champions is pretty on the thematic side. The Lacerters, Kanban's thematic. Gallerus is pretty thematic. Even the Vinyos one, pretty good. But then I do play some of the more themed ones like Empires of the Void, Sleeping Gods. That's, those are thematic. Not to say that everything I play has to be thematic. I do have dry games here as well. It's just those ones do appeal to me more, and that's always been the case. I like to get immersed in the games I'm playing, and the more thematic the game is, the more you can get immersed. Some games are going to be dry no matter what. You can't help it. But there's definitely, a Civilization themed game is definitely going to pull me in. The Star Wars Outer Rim is going to pull me in. Chaos in the Old World, Forbidden Stars. I haven't played that in ages. I really need to learn that and get that back to the table as a big event thing. Have I got time before Shape Battle and Roll? That's a tempting prospect, maybe for that convention. But what else have we got? But there's games that aren't necessarily that thematic. Cascadia is not the most thematic game in the world. Mystic Vale certainly isn't that thematic. It's just a veneer. Space Base isn't a thematic game. What else? Some of the Rosenberg stuff, the theme is kind of there. I'm not desperate. Path of Civilization here is bone dry, really, but it's still a fun game to play. Scythe, not overly thematic in itself either. And there's some abstract games like Yinch over there, and Kamisado. And Splendor, what we got there. So, it's not that I can only play thematic games, but certainly they appeal to me, and they always have done. That hasn't really changed as much. What else? hot tea because I got to watch my mouth. Oh, blimey, we're already up to 50 minutes. Oh, well, so much for a short episode then. I'll try to wrap this up in an hour, though. So another point, I don't want to say that I've got more jaded, but there's definitely an idea that when I first went to Essen, for example, and that must have been, what, like 7 odd years ago, 6, 7 years ago, I think, first went to Essen, it was like Kid in the Candy Store. I love it. Oh my God, there's games everywhere. There's so much choice. This is overwhelming, but I don't care. I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy this. Now, though, I still go to Essen, I still have a good time, but wow, I'm not as excited for the games anymore. I mean, I am no longer that kid in the candy store, because as games have gone on over the last 10 years, the innovation has kind of died down in games. There was a lot of stuff being innovated in those teen years, 2011 through to 2018, 19 tops, something like that. But then when we got to around the pandemic age and beyond, innovation in games has really strained itself to try and come up with anything original. I mean, hell, we have just done a review of Finspan, for example. Yeah, innovation, taking the same idea you've already copied and done once to do it a second time. It's innovation's kind of lost now, and it means that I don't get as excited for a lot of games anymore, because I look at it and I go, well, I've seen that before, so what's the unique selling point? Why should I go for this over anything else? And sometimes that game will surprise me and I'll go, yep, fantastic, brilliant, whatever. And I had some from 2024 like that. But it does mean that I'm not going like, goo goo gaga, yay, for games when they get announced or when they get released, even until I've had a chance to play them. And so now when I'm going to these conventions like Essen, I'm I'm not like, oh, I can't be bothered, or it's another convention. No, I'm still like, oh, I'm looking forward to playing some games and looking forward to it. But the excitement level has gone down. There is a slight bit of jadedness to the sense that I know what games are like. I know what the industry is like. So, it's difficult for the industry to wow me at the moment because of the trends it's setting at the moment, where everybody is kind of rehashing the same stuff they've done before, making minor tweaks, selling it for a full price tag, and telling me it's worth it. I mean, we're one step away from Madden in the EA video game world. Okay, if you know the Madden games, the football Madden games, EA make this god-awful series, which is just full of loot boxes and microtransactions. And the only people who like it are the ones who are the ones who get paid by them to act all amazing in the video because they opened a loot box and got a card that was star gold, whatever. It's basically it's basically gambling and theft, frankly, in my opinion. But all they do each year is take the previous game, tweak the rosters, and release it. That's all they do. They don't make any effort or innovation to make the games more interesting as they go through the years. I'm worried that the board game industry is going to start doing that, where people are less inclined to make something new and interesting when they realize that all they got to do is just tweak something they did already that was famous and make money off it. Why would you not? That's the problem. That's how some things are going. So, there's definitely a slight jadedness there. What else? What else can I think of that's chopped and changed? Certainly there's more of an emphasis for solo gaming. Although that's not to say that solo gaming was devoid of my attention when I first started, because I've been single for a long time, apart from the occasional girlfriend, and I'm used to gaming solo. So there was already an element of that. But I'm definitely paying a bit more attention to solo gaming now. Like, when I get a game, I am very interested to know what it plays like solo. If it's a game I don't think I can get to the table that often. I mean, Frostpunk's a good example. How does that play solo compared to multiplayer? Some of these heavier games behind me, Calm Bomb, what's the solo mode in that if I can't get that to the table? Arc Nova, what's the solo mode for that like? Although that one I can get to the table because there's a lot of fans nearby for it. But Sentinels in the multiverse now, how's that play solo? And so I'm definitely more interested in the solo mode. Doesn't mean that it has to have one. I've always stipulated that not every game needs a solo mode to be good, but it doesn't hurt to have one. And certainly I'd much rather have a solo mode that wasn't just beat your own score, boring, no effort put in. But not every game lends itself to that. But there are some games that literally the only difference between solo and multiplayer is the fact that you have other people at the table and that's it. I mean, Sentinels in the multiverse, you can play it multiplayer, you can play it solo free-handed, perfectly fine, it's not that difficult, but there is a reason to play it in both ways. But that's fine with me. I don't expect Sentinels in the multiverse to come up with some other weird version of the game, but then that's a co-op. they tend to be like that. But a Euro game, I mean, Kanban behind me has a proper AI system in it, which I enjoy doing as long as the AI isn't too complicated to handle. And there have been some dodgy versions like that in the past, cough cough Batoku. But there's definitely more of a, oh yeah, I want to know what the solo mode's like in it. But if the solo mode's bad, it's not a be all or end all of the game. It's just what what I'm into. Okay, what else? Gotta think. So we touched on Kickstarter, we touched on Completionist, we've touched on solo multiplaying. Most of the things I look for in games have kind of remained the same. I mean, I like a decent rulebook. I like player aids to be a thing. I want it to be easy enough to teach people. There's trends in the industry that might be another podcast topic worth talking about. Maybe that as to like where I see things going up and down, but that's not my own personal evolution. I'm trying to think of how else I've evolved. Certainly the content creation has evolved, but that's just a case of technology, getting used to the software, trying out new things. I've now got a style that I'm happy with now that I can stick with, but you would have noticed in older videos that my style has changed dramatically over time. So, that was an evolution in itself. But in terms of playing games, I mean, I still like having people around for games. Only happens so often, though, because the problem is I've got this set up here, but I go to a club in Bognor, which isn't exactly next door. I go to a club in Southampton, again, not exactly next door. And the closest place that I had to bring people to games was Portsmouth. But ever since I fell out with the actual club, disagreed with the way they ran things, those people aren't available anyway. So, most of the time I'm solo gaming at my own place, but unless there's a few people that I know who do actually make the journey to come and visit me and stuff. But then there are times when I'll go and visit them, because I work in Southampton, so I'm already in the area, so I might as well go to yours to play a game. So there is a bit of that, but that's just personal circumstances. But yeah, I do still like having a board game night. Just get 4 of you together, plan a game, play it, have fun, have some alcohols, drink some ciders, some wine, finish it off with a bit of coffee at the end, cook a meal beforehand. We still do, a few of us every Friday do a come dine with me type thing of, one of us takes it in turn to cook a meal for all 4 of us, and then we go play a game. So that's always been good fun. I mean, I was there on Friday at a mate's house. We were playing Inventors of the South Tigris because we wanted to keep that fresh in their minds after I'd already taught it to them. Now, this Friday, we should be at a different friend's house, and I believe the plan is to play Galactic Cruise, providing that I get the game in time to learn it. So that will hopefully be a thing. But yeah, I mean, that's never changed. Always like social gatherings. That's always a good thing. Anything else that I can think of, really? Types of games, still like these types of games. Certainly, I'm more open to some of the big Euros, but, I am still hesitant on certain other ones. The really dry Euros still are a bit meh. I mean, I played games like Hansa Teutonica and Brass and a few others in the old days, Nippon and, some other dry Euros in the past. Didn't like them then, don't like them now. So, that's not really changed. I've already mentioned less of a completionist. Definitely not buying as many games as I used to. I mean, yeah, I've got like these shelves in here, shelves in there, and shelves downstairs. Luke, what are you talking about? But I've now reached a point where my collection is very much a one in, one out. Like, I'm not buying any more shelves. There is no point. If the game cannot fit on my shelves, it can't be in the collection. And if it's a game I want in my collection, something else has to go. And there's plenty of choices. I can look at even just what's in my camera view at the moment. There are games in my camera view there where I'm like, right, I need to fit a game of a similar size in that spot. You know what? I could probably say goodbye to that game. It may be a game I enjoy. I might even just donate it to the local game cafe so that I know I can get to play it at times. But at the end of the day, like I said, you've only got so much time to play games now, and I'm definitely more conscious of that in my 40s now that I enter my 40s, as I was when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. That's definitely something that's changed over time. An awareness of time is definitely a thing, and it means that I am more picky on the game. So certainly, yes, if something's coming into the collection, I get a bunch of review copies. I can't keep them all. I've got to either, if I've bought them out of my own pocket, I've got to sell them on to try and recoup some of the funds for the channel. If they've been, review copies, then, I try to donate them when I can. Friends want them, game cafes want them and stuff. But, most of the time, there'll be a case of, right, well, I need to fit this big game on there. Where the hell? And this also counts for expansions. Deep Rock Galactic obviously took up about half a calyx square by itself, but then with the expansion box, it's taken up an entire calyx square. Well, something had to go. I didn't acquire a new game. I just had to expand one game I really liked and had to kick out another game for it. That's still fine for my books, Yes, it may mean that some people will boast, oh yeah, I got 500 games in my collection or something. I'm probably closer to about 160 to 200 tops for me or something like that, but it's not really anything to boast about. It's like, yeah, great, you got 500 games in your collection. How many times do you get to play each one? Tell me that you've gone through your entire collection of 500 games and played each one at least once in the last God knows what years. It's just not going to happen. So, I'm not that fussed if the number of games I have in my collection goes down, if it means that the games I'm keeping get better. There's definitely that. Right. All right, we've just ticked off onto the 1 hour mark. I think that's a good point. So I'd be interested to know your comments in the spaces down below. Over, say, 10 years worth of gaming plus. How have your tastes changed? How's your attitude changed? Do you agree with me on some points? Are you the opposite view in that you didn't do a lot of Kickstarter before and now you do a lot of it, So let me know your thoughts, what do you think of the stuff I've said? What are your personal dealings with how you've evolved through the last 10 odd years of gaming? And it could be 20 years. I mean, if you've been gaming for the last 30 years, since like the days of Catan, then by all means, how's it, that's going to be a pretty big story to tell. But yeah, I'll be interested to know your thoughts. But for now, that's it for me. I'm going to get on, save my throat, get on with some gym work. I'm going to make some dinner first, make some lunch. Yeah, maybe I'll snack on match. I do need to go to the gym. I might go and do I might go do 30 minutes on a cross trainer, listen to some music, come back, and then after shower have some lunch and stuff, So because I've got gaming tonight, so online gaming and other things to do. So yeah, there's a lot to get done. It's a busy weekend, but it's a good weekend for me. And although that's partially because I spent most of yesterday being lazy, but come on. I'm allowed a lazy day. Give me a break. So that's it for me. I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple podcast. Take care. And remember, it's only a game. Bye for now, everybody.